Much like
but
my
really don't.
Sonic
So
2
thank you.
review, we gotta go fast.
Welcome to the Royals Rundown Podcast presented by Royals Review. We are on turbo mode. My name is Jacob Milham, joined this fine Monday by Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, how are we doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, that's it.
If I
You're
say it
good.
enough times, I will believe it.
Okay, we are. I think that is what it's called, manifesting nowadays. And if
Hey,
I
it worked for the Royals season.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. We did plenty of manifesting over at royalsreview.com, your best source for Kansas City Royals related news, analysis, and commentary. Go join the crew, and hey, you can start your writing career. I went and read through some of the fan posts I think earlier this week, and there was only like one fan post over the past like 2 months. I'm like, what are we doing, folks? This used to be a gold mine. So go pick up the pace and go get in action over at royalsreview.com. Jeremy, we got plenty to talk about today, but first things first, a lot of congratulations to go around. First up, Michael Wacha getting his first multi-year
Woo!
deal since his days with the St. Louis Cardinals. The Kansas City Royals
AKA his
agreed
rookie
to a
deal.
3-year extension with the Yeah, I know, right? He was just under team control for multiple years. Wacha got a 3-year contract extension with a club option for 2028. The new contract begins next season and replaces the remainder of Wacha's deal, if that makes any sense. It can be up to worth to $72 million, Jeremy. These are no small potatoes. But the deal includes a guaranteed 3 years at $51 million with a $14 million club option in 2028. Jeremy, how are we feeling about this deal?
You know, this is probably going to sound like a lot of backtracking. You and I were at one point saying, man, if he gets 3 years, somebody's screwed up. But
Yeah.
actually, I think this is a good deal. I thought about it some more since then, and you know, pitchers are pitching older and older. There's an article in Fangraphs today that was talking about how the current trend in baseball is old pitchers and young sluggers. And so Michael Wacha fits right in there. I saw some other comps. A lot of guys his age were getting 3-year deals. So to get that 3-year deal, and then this time we lock in that club option instead of that player option, right? So if he's still good in 3 years, we're like, why don't you come back for a 4th year? Why don't we do this again at a little discount?
Might as well.
So he was going to get 16 next year. So now he gets 18. That's a little bit of a raise. Then he gets 18 the year after that. That makes sense. And then he gets, I believe, the 3rd year is 14 with $4 million in incentives. And then the club option's 14. So how can you hate this deal? They don't have any guaranteed contracts after this season other than Bobby Witt Jr. So spend that money, baby. So the first thing it told me was, yeah, Michael Wacha's back. The starting rotation is intact if that's the way the Royals want to go. The second thing it told me was $72 million, and we're not even like, oh, that's a lot of money. We're like, well, that makes sense. That's a reasonable free agent deal, and that's what the Royals do these days. They're currently the biggest free agent spenders in the market.
Woo! It is absolutely insane to be talking like that, Jeremy. Goodness, but it's the reality.
Well, this, honestly, in a lot of ways, and there are differences. There are huge differences for sure. But in a lot of ways, this does remind me of 2014 James Shields. When the Royals were like, yeah, James Shields, he led our staff. He was our ace. You know, he helped us get it this far. We're not going to bring him back. We're not going to really try. And with Michael Wacha, the 3rd best pitcher on the staff, they said, yeah, heck yeah, we're getting him back. We're not going to even wait around. We're not going to try and get his price down. We're not going to let him search in free agency and possibly leave. He's just coming back. It's just happening.
Exactly. They got that deal done on the last day of exclusive negotiations with Wacha, so the Royals saw their shot, and it worked out. Michael Wacha's ERA ranked 10th in the American League and helped the Royals rotation rank 2nd as a group in all of Major League Baseball with a 3.55 ERA. Jeremy, I know we've spoke about like, hey, Wacha wasn't perfect this year, but he was absolutely a gamble that the Royals took in the last offseason, and he paid off in spades. And I just It's crazy that we're at this point right now. Like the payroll is gonna go up. There's too many holes right now on this roster for the payroll not to go up. And I get it. It's some off-season lip service, maybe, but JJ Piccolo did come out and say this was his top priority was keeping Michael Wacha in a
Well,
Kansas
sure, it
City
was the one that
Royals
had to
uniform.
happen
Yeah,
first.
and especially after a guy goes out, he gives you 3.3 FWAR on the year, a 3.35 ERA. The FIP even was at 3.65, so he wasn't that far outperforming his expected metrics
Right.
or anything like that. All in all, this is just a crazy career resurgence for Waka. I mean, you go back to 2019, he was a negative FR player. He
Yeah.
was a nobody, and he moved on from St. Louis. And every year since then, he has grown his value. He has grown his performance.
And
And this past season was kind of the climax.
I do have some fears next year as to whether Seth Lugo can replicate his performance. It feels probably unlikely. Like he could still be a very good pitcher and not be as good as he was in 2024. Michael
Agreed.
Wacha, I'm still wondering if he might be better next year
Really.
with a whole offseason to work on that slider with the pitching staff, with the pitching coaching staff, which has sliders are their thing. We've talked about this. And the slider was a good tool, but it was not a finisher by any means. It got when it was the pitch that was put in play, it was put in play pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
There's room for improvement there, without going crazy. Uh, I I'm excited for this deal. I think it just tells us a lot about what the Royals can be next year and who the Royals are as a franchise now, which is a
Mm-hmm.
franchise that is willing to spend free agent dollars.
The timing of this is also interesting, Jeremy, because we still don't know for sure what the Bally situation is. Like that is still unresolved. And I was already kind of making it in my head like, hey, the first couple of months of this offseason might be a little slow because of that, because that's affecting a lot of teams out there. The Royals are one of them being affected. Right now, it hasn't affected that at all, which is very, very promising. And kudos do need to be given to the front office and ownership for making this move happen. Now, this is where I want to preface. If that same group goes out this offseason and is still and is quiet and doesn't do anything and then goes back and say, "Well, we made the Michael Wacha move." That's not an excuse. This is a move that you build upon. This is okay, we saw this strength and we wanted to cement it for multiple years. So now we saw this weakness that we need to address. Let's go address that weakness at least in the short term and see what happens.
And
Jeremy, any
I
other?
got to
Oh,
tell
go
you,
ahead.
Jacob, I believe. I fully believe. Last year, I didn't believe. They said we need this and this and this, and I'm like, all right, let's see if you actually get it. And then we went the first few weeks of the off season. I was reviewing my articles from last year, and I was writing like, are they actually going to spend? Like they got Garrett
Yeah.
Hampson and Will Smith. Like that's not enough. And
No.
then they went out and did the big spending. And it seemed like maybe they were kind of going against the grain where a lot of teams were cutting money because of the stuff I've written about and we've talked about with like the way the interest rates worked out. And now there's some theorizing I've seen from some people who are like maybe the Royals are going to try and get out in front and get some free agents before the TV situation settled. While other teams are like, I don't know if we
Ooh.
could do this. The Royals are like, yeah, we can afford it. We'll figure it out. Like the TV deal will probably come through somehow. Maybe not as
Mhm.
much, but we'll be close. We'll be good enough. This is what I've seen from the Royals for the last year and a half is a team that says we want to win. We want to make money, but first we want to win. That's how they've acted. That's how they've comported themselves for a year and a half. I'm going to believe in them as that's going to continue until they show me otherwise.
Yeah.
I'm fully bought in right now.
Yeah. Their actions are backing up their words. I know used the term lip service earlier on, and Dayton Moore kind of ruined me on that idea, as I've spoken about several times on this podcast. JJ Piccolo, whatever he says at this point, I am going to believe that is at least the plan. That might not be what ultimately happens, but if he says, "Hey, we're going to go out, we're going to be aggressive to get a leadoff guy," I'm going to believe that that's the plan, and that's what he
And
wants to do.
and I think that's a difference between Dayton Moore and JJ Piccolo also is that Dayton Moore would come to the offseason and be like, we're going to get better next year. Everyone's going to be better. And JJ Piccolo comes out and he says, we need to get a leadoff hitter and we need to get a cleanup hitter. Last year, he said
Mhm.
we need to get at least 2 starting pitchers and at least 1 bat. And
What'd
we
they
need to
do?
help the bullpen. And he did all of those things.
He did.
So I 100% believe we're going to see them add 2 impact bats. Maybe not stars. Cody Bellinger's not out there anymore.
Yeah.
Probably not going to go get Juan Soto, no matter how many times I ask for it. But
Keep dreaming.
maybe Alex Bregman. Maybe I
Maybe.
couldn't have even dreamed on an Alex Bregman 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Now it's like, well, it could happen.
Exactly. It seems very, very real. It seems like a realistic, aggressive move. Like, I'm not saying I'm
Mhm.
expecting them to get Bregman, but at
Right.
least I would expect
It's
them to go ahead.
it's gone from completely impossible to unlikely.
Yeah. Hey, improvement. I'll take it. I'll
Exactly.
take it.
Well, but that means that the guys who were like extremely unlikely are now, yeah, totally, that could happen.
Except for Juan Soto. That's still not going to
Well,
happen.
Juan Soto
Unfortunately.
was so far into impossible that he
Yes.
remains in impossible.
Exactly.
If the Royals did sign Juan Soto, I would have to put a moratorium on complaining about the front office for at least 10 years.
At least we would put a gag order on you there, Jeremy. I do apologize, but that is just the reality of it.
Yeah.
There
Fair.
is, speaking of Juan Soto, and you brought up a good point of the Royals possibly trying to get ahead of the offseason spending from these other teams that are waiting on the TV money. We saw we got a little bit of a preview of how the Juan Soto offseason could go thanks to Shohei Ohtani last year. And we saw kind of so many of these big teams like be frozen in the
Mhm.
offseason market until December, I believe it was.
Something like that.
Because they wanted to wait to see, hey, are we going to be the ones to get Shohei? And sorry, I have a cat right now trying to get out the window behind my head. So if you hear a cat meow, and that's what's going on there. I am curious if the Royals are gonna be aggressive again during that period. If they can go get some of these B tier level free agents, maybe some of the lower A tier guys, and say, look, this is a fair deal right now. Okay, you can wait to see if you can wait a month to see if you get something better. This is a fair deal right now. This is what we can offer you. What do you say? And you know what? Maybe a guy like Alex Bregman would bite on a deal like that. It's also interesting how much Wacha did speak about the culture
Mhm.
in Kansas City, which I think needs to be, that's a testament to the coaching staff, to the manager, to the front office. Like that is very, very valuable. You know, I reviewed Winning Fixes Everything last week, I think it was, and hearing about how a toxic culture at the top rolls downhill. Well, this is quite the opposite. This is a very
Yeah.
positive mindset, a very positive leadership office, and it's going downhill, and it makes people want to be here, which is very valuable in its own.
Breaking news, Jacob.
Oh
If you
boy.
spend money and you win baseball games, free agents want to play with you or play for
Whoa,
you.
that's
What?
wild.
If they're like, wait, you want to pay me what I'm worth and I have a chance to win some baseball games? Sign me up. That's what happens. That's how that works.
Hey, you know what? It's those two things haven't always been in Kansas City, Jeremy. So it's
Well,
this is kind of a new thing.
exactly. That's why we're on cloud 9 right now.
Precisely. Hey, two other guys that should be on cloud nine right now are shortstop Bobby Witt Jr. and pitcher Seth Lugo, both adding their first career Gold Glove awards to the trophy case. So give them a round of applause, folks. Very, very excited that for the first time in a few years, the Royals had multiple Gold Glove winners. Back when Andrew Benintendi and Michael A. Taylor won the awards at their positions all the way back in 2021. Listen, Jeremy, we're just spoiled with good defense here in Kansas City, so it's
Yep.
we expect more out of our fielders, right?
Absolutely. And don't be surprised if Kyle Isbell and Michael Massey show up as in finalist lists. I don't know if either of them will win, but I expect them both to show up in lists in the next few years. Freddie Fermin, of course, was a finalist this year, didn't make it. But he could be again if he stays in Kansas City and gets more playing time, or he could be if he goes to another team and becomes the starter.
Precisely. So, listen, this is just a great turnaround for Witt. I mean, just a couple of years ago, folks were talking about, do you move him off a shortstop? Because the eye test, he was very exciting. He was a very exciting shortstop. But he made some boneheaded moves, and it happens. But he goes out there and he plays every single day. He started 161 games out of 162 at shortstop. Like he did what he could do.
160, I think, because he had 1 day at DH and 1 day off.
Oh, I am sorry. Yes, you are right. I forgot about that. I mean, this just further adds to Witt's coming out party as a superstar, excuse me. And once we see the final MVP balloting, I am sure that will be the cherry on top of this season. Jeremy, were you kind of? This has been the first time in a while Kansas City has had a Royals pitcher win the Gold Glove. Last guy to do it was Brett Saberhagen all the way back in 1989, and he was the only other.
Frankie never won one with the Royals.
No,
I guess he won it with the Dodgers.
Must have. I mean, and you go back and you watch some of the tape. I'm not saying I watched every single inning that Seth Lugo pitched, but he made some pretty good plays. He really did.
Yeah, I feel like half the time you see a pitcher go for a bunt, you're like, please do not throw that ball. But when it came to the Royals starters, at least the relievers were a different issue. But when it came to the Royals starters, they would pick up the ball and they would fire strikes to first consistently. And apparently, pitchers fielding practice, pitching defense was an emphasis for this team throughout the season, and it paid off. Because don't forget, Cole Reagans was in the top 3 as well.
Yeah, that he was. And let's see here. I'm looking at some of the numbers. So Lugo didn't have an error all year. One of 10 American League pitchers to finish with the perfect fielding percentage and make 30-plus starts. And meanwhile, as you all know, Lugo led that field in innings pitched. So, I mean, he was immaculate across that span. Can't ask for much more defensively from him. A small plug here. If y'all want to make them the Platinum Gold Award winners, you can go over to Rawlings.com. Voting is open up over there. So you just pick one player from each league and you vote for them. I know it is such a hard choice. We can only pick one of Bobby Witt Jr. or Seth Lugo. The last Platinum Gold. What'd you say?
I'd pick Bobby. I can't imagine a pitcher getting a Platinum Gold or Platinum Glove.
I can't either. I do think that Bobby is the best case out of the 2 Royals finalists in the Platinum Gold Award winning. Alex Gordon was the last platinum guy from the Kansas City Royals. He did so in 2020 and then again in 2014. So, Jeremy, I mean, you got to go cast your vote, man. Got to go support Bobby all that you can, right?
Absolutely.
Lastly, well, I mean, shoot, we might as well stick on Bobby Witt Jr. Just doing everything, I guess. He was named a Silver Slugger finalist today, according to MLB.com, alongside veteran catcher Salvador Perez. There are 4 finalists among the catchers and then 3 among the shortstops. This would be the first for Bobby. This wouldn't be the first for Salvi. Salvi is the last.
Salvi won it last year, even.
Did he? Is that what he won it?
He's won it multiple times. I'll look it up real quick. Keep going.
He has. I know he's won it 4 times, and he leads all Royals players all time for the most Silver Slugger award. So that would be cool if he gets a 5th to his name.
He has not won it since 2021. I was incorrect.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's just been a little bit. But, I mean, I don't know. I think both of them have pretty strong cases. If memory serves correctly, Salvi led all qualified AL catchers in OPS, which is a very, very popular statistic to measure by. I know he wasn't as powerful as he was in years prior, but he was much more of a well-rounded hitter, I would say, in 2024. He kind of tailed off at the end there, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got it. I think Bobby might surprise me a little bit if he gets it. I don't know. I need to look at his
Interesting.
case. I need to look at his case a little bit better alongside Gunnar Henderson and Corey Seager. I mean,
Seager's not in the picture. Let's put
no,
that out there to start with.
yeah.
He's there because they have to have three, or
Let's see.
they decided to have three. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why they have 3 at some and then 4 at others. But listen, if you look past Henderson's 37 home runs, which are the most from any shortstop, Witt again was the more well-rounded guy, a second 30-30 season this year, won a batting title, and became the first player in AL or NL history to tally at least 40 doubles, 30 home runs, 30 steals, and 10 triples in a single season. So maybe I'm thinking of the AL All-Star case a little bit too much there, Jeremy, when it comes to Henderson versus Witt.
Can
So
I
my apologies.
can I give you some OPSs here?
Yeah, let's go.
Since you were bringing us the Salvi OPS,
Yeah. Yeah,
Corey Seager with an 864 OPS. That's pretty good.
it is.
Pretty good. Would have led the NL, by the way. All three of these guys are above the NL.
Dang.
Mookie Betts was a primary shortstop considered according to Fangraphs, and he had an 863.
Okay.
Gunnar Henderson comes in with a cool 893. Very nice.
Yes.
Very good stuff from Gunnar Henderson. Bobby Witt Jr. only comes in at a 977.
Only. Yeah.
Almost
only.
100 points higher than the next closest.
Okay, that's pretty crazy.
I think he's gonna win it, Jacob.
Yeah, I think so. I'm eating crow.
What's OPS?
OPS is on base percentage plus slugging percentage, honey. Thank you very much for asking. For all of our listeners out there, that was honey, by the way. So, Jeremy, I mean, are you putting money on Bobby and Salvi winning it? Would you parlay that, as they say?
I think Bobby's basically a guarantee. Salvi comes in, like you said, he has the league leading 786 OPS, but the second is Yainer Diaz with the 766. And
So
I
it's
feel
not a
like he
massive
was
gap.
hotter in the second half than Salvi. So I could see that one going either way.
Okay. All right. Well, we do have to wait a little bit before we get those results. They'll be announced next Tuesday, November 12th at 6 p.m. only on MLB Network. So this is just kind of award season for baseball right now. Like they roll right into the world's or right from the World Series. Even they announced during the World Series that Salvi won the Roberto Clemente Award. And then there's just about 3 weeks where all the awards get announced. The Cy Youngs will be in a couple of weeks. MVP will be in a couple of weeks. But we get these we get the Louisville Slugger and the Rawlings Gold Glove awards out of the way first. Jeremy, anything else on those guys before we move on to a minor league Gold Glove winner?
No, I did actually just realize that somehow Yainer Diaz has a 117 WRC plus to Salvi's 115.
Okay.
So I do think there is some serious concern that Salvi might not win that one.
Okay. All right.
It really could go either way, but yeah, we'll see.
All right, that is good to know. The prospect that we're talking about is none other than the maligned pitcher, Frank Mazzucato, Kansas City's number 11 prospect on their top 30 list. He won the Gold Glove Award this year at the pitcher slot, which was very, very surprising. He didn't have a perfect season at all, but he was doing something right, apparently, and evaluators thought that he deserved the Gold Glove. So congratulations to Mazzucato, a big add to the trophy case, especially as a minor leaguer. We saw how Michael Massey's Gold Glove win has kind of carried this reputation for multiple years afterwards. Hopefully, he could do the same for Frank Mazzucato as he comes up through the system. Jeremy, what else were we going to talk about today?
I think that's everything we planned on talking about. I
Wow.
had just seen. Yeah, we raced through it today.
We did.
I just saw before we got on here that the Tampa Bay Rays are looking at potentially getting a couple $1 million in city funding to install some drainage and some weatherproofing to their stadium to try and play at Tropicana this summer. But that feels like a mistake to me. It's not designed to be an outdoor stadium. You can spend a few million to renovate it. I don't think it's A, going to be done in time. I don't think B, like, it rains a lot. It rains a lot in Tampa Bay, even when there's not a hurricane. So it just feels like a mistake, a waste of money. We'll see what happens, I guess, with all that. I am very interested to what's going to happen with the Rays, where they will end up playing. I don't know if you saw that the Athletics have announced their schedule timing. So many Sunday night games.
Yeah, a lot of them.
And they did at least agree to do a natural field in Sacramento instead of using an artificial turf with that heat out there. But it's still going to be so hot, and so many night games, and so many flying out the night of and then going, maybe across the country in some cases for a Monday game.
Yeah, that would be a lot going on there. Hey, listen, since we do have a few minutes to talk, I do want to talk about some other free agent stuff out there that that we should be maybe paying a little bit more attention to, because we spoke earlier on in the episode about, like, hey, the Royals right now are displaying all the things that a free agent should look at and say, yeah, we'll give it a shot. I'll play for you for a few years or so. See what happens. It's crazy to see all of these, like, best fits Kansas City Royals for the top free agents. Like, you go look at CBS right now, for example. Royals are listed in the top 3 for Anthony Santander. They're listed in the top 3 for Teoscar Hernandez, the World Series winning outfielder.
And home run derby champion.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I did. Gleyber Torres, even. Like, the Royals are second behind the Yankees in that one, which is very interesting. So the list goes on and on. Just about nearly any top outfielder, the Royals are listed as, like, hey, it's a fit, and they could probably afford to pay any of those guys a fair deal, I would say.
Yeah.
But the interesting things is more on the trade front, I would say. So Jack Johnson of the Locked On Royals podcast put out CBS Sports' top 25 MLB trade candidates, and the Royals were listed on Taylor Ward, Adolis Garcia, and surprisingly, third baseman Alec Bohm. Would you like to see any of those guys in Kansas City, Jeremy?
I absolutely do not want anything to do with Adolis Garcia.
Yeah,
I'm not super excited about Alec Bohm or Taylor Ward either, honestly. Alec Bohm, I wouldn't hate Alec Bohm. I am a little nervous about him, but the other two are just, like, Taylor Ward was a guy that we looked at the trade deadline, not because he's good, but because we thought he'd be cheap enough to be a good trade target.
Right.
Alec Bohm is probably going to cost a lot, and I don't know that he did okay. I'm wrong. He was fantastic last year. I thought he had kind of a down year. That's my bad. But he doesn't walk a lot. He doesn't strike out a lot. So that does kind of fit the Royals kind of what they like to do. He finished the year with only 15 home runs, despite the fact that he was in the home run derby. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened either.
But yeah, so I wouldn't hate an Alec Bohm. Depends on what they paid for him. That feels like an unlikely deal. I don't want, I do not want Adolis Garcia. I do not want Taylor Ward. They are not consistent enough. What the Royals need to be adding is consistency. They've got upside. They've got a star in Bobby Witt Jr. They've got a couple guys that are like, yeah, you're pretty good some of the time, they need some guys that are good most of the time.
Yeah, and I think like that reason is why I wouldn't be opposed to the Royals pushing in a lot of their chips in on Alec Boehm. I really wouldn't hate that move, especially with how much of a need an everyday third baseman would be.
Do the
Boehm's,
Phillies need a pitcher?
I mean, it probably couldn't hurt right now. Phillies were one of the better pitching crews in baseball. Unfortunately, their Achilles heel was kind of the relief side of things.
Yeah.
But I'm not up to speed on their farm system. Like the Royals at some point are going to have to try and leverage this gluttony of wealth they have at the catcher position. Okay, not every one of Carter Jensen and Ramon Ramirez and Blake Mitchell are going to make it to the show. You go out and you get Alec Boehm, who's still in arbitration. He's got the local connection. He went to Wichita State for school. Former third overall pick. I mean, there are things to like there. It's just not going to be cheap. It would be a big investment from the player development side of
So
things, which
my first thing when I think about a trade is that the Royals' best trade piece from a perspective of valuable to another team, the Royals can afford to part with him, is Brady Singer.
yeah, that's fair. That's
Especially
fair.
now that Michael Wacha's back. They've got 4 starters. You could probably sign another starter to replace Brady Singer, at least for next year, for a similar, maybe lesser price, honestly. And he's got 2 years of control left. He's still young. He's got some stuff that you maybe think you can help him break out and really improve on if you're another team. So that's that. I feel like if they're going to make a trade for an Alec Boehm level player, it's gonna start with Brady Singer. Probably other pieces as well. Also, one of those catchers that you're talking about, I would bet. But that's that. I think that's where you got to start. And if the Phillies don't need a starting pitcher, and I don't think they do, and I don't think you trade for Brady Singer to turn him into a reliever, then I don't think that there's a match there necessarily.
Okay. Yeah, going and looking at how the rotation performed for the Phillies last year, they in Fangraphs' power rankings for position groups, 4 of their 5 starters were in the top 50 for starters. So that is certainly not a weakness. But you go down to their number 5 guy, and if they really wanted to, I don't know, if they just look at Kansas City and they say, hey, look, they were consistently winning across the 2024 season, because the Royals are kind of the model, if you will, for a winning franchise right now. I say that a little bit sarcastically because they lost in the ALDS, but that doesn't matter because we're the Kansas City Royals. If the Phillies were to try and get Singer, they would probably, like, bar none, have the best rotation on paper, I would say.
Yeah.
But it's not every day that you could have Aaron Nola as your number 3 guy in the rotation.
Yeah.
That's a scary rotation. But I would be excited about Boehm. I'm with you. I don't want anything to do with Adolis Garcia. I don't have any problem with them going boom or bust on a guy. I have a problem with them doing so when it will cost prospect
Right.
in return. So, like, if he was
Well,
out there on the open market, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
I'd be with you if they didn't already have Hunter Renfroe. You've already got Hunter
Fair.
Renfroe. You've already got MJ Melendez. You've got some inconsistent outfielders with some power. We don't need another one. We need either a really good defensive outfielder, backup outfielder, or we need a starting outfielder who is going to be more consistent. I just don't see the point in adding another. Well, and that's what I said when they signed Renfroe to begin with, is I don't know why we're adding another inconsistent power bat who's not a very good defender.
Yeah, and you go look at Taylor Ward. Like, he's kind of he's been hovering around league average, but mostly he's been like a negative out in the field across his career. Strikeouts are trending up. Like, he's been able to draw walks. He really has, but he just struck out a lot in 2024. Still a 25 home run guy, 75 RBI on the year, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But I'm not going to be banging the drum for Taylor Ward either. I don't think he solves everything in Kansas City, if that makes sense. He would be a fun leadoff guy though, if the Royals wanted to go that route.
I mean, if the Royals can get him for basically nothing, and they go all out on their cleanup hitter, they do get a Bregman or a Teoscar Hernandez, then I will say, yeah, all right, cool. He had a 2.7 WAR last year. He had a 111 WRC plus. Like you said, the strikeouts did go up, but they were pretty high for him. Like, he doesn't usually strike out that much. The walk rate was very consistent with where he's been in his career. 323 OBP. He steals a couple of bases, so he's not super slow. That might work better than I thought it would. Again, I do not want to pay much for him because he's not going to bring you much on the bases or in the field. So if you're paying for him, you're paying basically only for his ability to take walks.
Okay. Hey, another thing that we didn't talk about. I know we love talking about our man Dan on here and Zips projections. However, there are plenty of other projection systems out there. Another popular one is Steamer. Did you see that they came out with their 2025 numbers already?
I knew they had. I haven't looked at them yet.
Well, here, why don't you go and pull up Fangraphs and go to the Steamer projections, and I'll talk about them because I thought it was very, very promising that Bobby Witt Jr. is projected to take a big step back. He really is. And it's very unfortunate. He is projected to only be a 6.9 FR player in 2025. Yeah. Oh, what a tragedy. This is going to be very disappointing for all Kansas City Royals fans out there looking at these numbers. I'm joking. We will absolutely take that here in Kansas City. Oh my goodness.
But that's one of the things I've been talking about a little bit in like, people are like, get rid of MJ Melendez and get rid of Michael Garcia. And I'm like, no, we need to improve in other areas because Bobby Witt Jr. is probably not going to be a 10 WAR guy next year. Like, he might be an 8 WAR guy and win the MVP because he might be the best player in the AL still. But like, that's how that works. Guys, when you get to 10 WAR, it is really hard to stay up there unless you're Barry Bonds taking steroids. So that's not a judgment of Barry Bonds taking steroids. That was the thing at the time. That was the what do they call that? The style of at the time.
It was all the roid rage.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, so it feels even Mike Trout in his prime, didn't pull off back-to-back 10 WAR seasons. I don't think. Let me double check that before I put my foot too far in my mouth.
But it would be a very
he
tall
did actually. He did have back-to-back 10 WAR seasons, but only those two. He was never 10 WAR again. So you got to go, well, they're probably going to lose a little bit from Bobby. He's probably not going to be quite as good. So if they want to compete again next year, they're going to have to improve, which means bringing in those hitters, but it also means improving in areas like their bench where they were very bad last year. And everyone's like, well, you could get rid of MJ Melendez and then bring in someone else for who's a nobody. I'm like, why would you bring in another nobody instead of just paying the one that you already know and work with?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Are you going to find someone with more upside than MJ Melendez?
No.
Not for the price. And not who's worked with your coaching staff.
Right. Not who has that familiarity, at least with because I mean, MJ came up with this hitting coaching staff. Like his
and he's worked with the Drew Saylor and everybody for the last 3 years.
Right.
Alex Zumwalt.
Yep. I did. So just running down this, Vinny Pasquantino, 3 WAR guy. Michael Garcia, surprisingly, a 2.2 FWAR guy in these projections, and then Michael Massey at a 2 FWAR. What was that chuckle?
This is just everyone. Been arguing with people in the comments of my article where I was like, MJ Melendez and Michael Garcia need to be on this roster next year. They need to be bench players, at least to start. If they break out, then we could talk about making them starters again. But they need to be on this team next year. They're like, no, Michael Garcia sucks. And I'm like, but MJ Melendez sucks. And I'm like, no, but they might be good, and that's more than you're going to get if you go pay Adam Frazier and Garrett Hampson again.
Exactly.
And like everyone's like, Michael Garcia needs to stop selling out for power. Well, you know what Steamer likes about him is that he's got some power.
Got some pop.
He's got a glove and he's got legs. He has those. Now, he just needs to learn how to tap into his power. And everyone's like, he needs to stop selling out. No, he needs to sell out for power more. If he pulled the ball in the air more, he would be a successful hitter. He would be a star.
Now all I'm imagining is an MLB player without a glove or legs. I had got no
Giancarlo
legs.
Stanton.
Oh, too soon. And Yankees fans everywhere wept. But listen, if y'all want to go check out these projections for yourself, you can go find them on fangraphs.com. A lot of, I think, like if we wanted to take the time, we could dive into them. But at the end of the day, these are projections. These aren't prophecies. These aren't perfect insights into how 2025 is going to go. These are highly, highly educated guesses. But I like them, and I like what they spell for the Kansas City Royals hitters, especially. Now I haven't even looked at their pitchers. Yep, once again. Look at that. Kyle Wright, the 1.5 FWAR. Look at him at number 5 right there. Top pitcher, of course, Lucas Erceg, and then Hunter Harvey, the man that they think shouldn't be paid in arbitration. Chris Bubich down there at number 3 in the relief corps. So, yeah, a lot of good stuff still being projected on the pitching side of the house. Very, very promising, Jeremy. Akias, anything else before we get on out of here?
I just got to throw out there, Michael Massey projected for 19 home runs.
I'll take it.
Usually what you look at when you see these projection systems, just to describe this a little bit, is you see a 50th percentile projection.
Oh, yeah. Explain this.
So what you're seeing is like 50%, in 50% of my simulations, he did this or better. And in 50% of them, he was worse than this. Right. And so, like, half the time, when Steamer was simulating the season, Michael Massey hit 20 dingers and provided solid defense for the Royals. Now, he might result in a 10% projection and hit 5 home runs, or he might result in a 90% projection and hit 30 home runs. We don't know, but like, if you told me coin flip, Michael Massey hits 20 dingers next year and plays excellent defense, runs well for the Royals, I think I'll take that.
Yeah, I would too, especially when you look at the cost of that player and the value that he's giving you. That's just a
some
good
people.
business
Some people want to cut him too.
Stop it. Stop. What if you are one of those people?
Some of our fans think they're rooting for the Yankees out here. I don't know what they're doing.
Listen, I am going to need you go to Economics 101, okay? And go look at the Royals' revenue. Okay? We are playing with pennies here, folks. All right.
If you think the Yankees would walk away from Michael Garcia, Michael Massey, or MJ Melendez this offseason, you are out of your mind.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the examples I put in my article was Oswaldo Cabrera.
Yeah.
Who was their starting third baseman at the beginning of the year. He wasn't good.
Nope.
Didn't work. So they went and got Jazz Chisholm. Great. And then they cut Cabrera, right? Oh no. They put him on the bench.
Yeah.
And then when their first baseman got hurt in the playoff before the playoffs, he came in and got on base at a 500 clip against the Royals and helped the Yankees beat them. It's almost like having an inconsistent producer who can get hot and just take over things for a little bit is something that's useful to have on your bench.
It's better than having no producer who can't produce.
Exactly. They're like, well, I don't trust MJ Melendez to pinch hit. Well, sure, you don't. When you pinch hit him, you don't expect him to hit a home run every time. No. And if you had prime era Mark McGwire as your pinch hitter, you would expect him to hit a home run every time. Sure, absolutely. But you know what prime era Mark McGwire was doing? Starting games because he was that good.
Yeah, it's kind of like saying, like, oh, well, if Bobby was pinch hitting,
Yeah,
we'd expect him to
if
produce.
you got a guy on your bench that you're like, yeah, I'm excited for him to pinch hit. He's not a pinch hitter. He's a starter.
Exactly. Oh, man. It is going to be a long, long off season, folks. And listen, if you want more of our shenanigans, you can find them on our social media. Our links are down in the podcast description below, or you can go check out royalsreview.com for more of Jeremy's shenanigans. If you, this man is fighting the good fight in the comment section down there. He's got his sword, his shield. And he's like, come on.
I've always been more of a mage than a warrior.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah,
Casting
sorry.
spells on everyone with my replies.
Bibbidi bobbidi bam.
Sending curses.
There you go. We do love a good hex around these parts. All right, Jeremy, why don't we go ahead and
Hexadecimal.
What? All right, let's go ahead and get to today's Royals reviews. Jeremy, I'm going to put you on the spot, man. You go first.
All right, so I'm going to review that game I've been teasing for a week.
Yeah.
I will review Atelier Ryza, Ever Darkness, and The Secret Hideout. Atelier Ryza : Ever Darkness and The Secret Hideout, because those are two things that feel like they go together. Like, yeah, Mom, we just created our own secret hideout. No girls allowed. Except Ryza's a girl, so girls are definitely allowed. But
Yeah,
also, like, there's alien invaders are coming and we're going to fight them. These two things don't go together, but whatever. So some of you out there may be familiar with the Atelier series, of which this is the latest. Well, it's not the latest entry, but it's the beginning of the latest series, sub-series, which is just like a really crafting-focused JRPG where you gather a lot of materials and you craft things as an alchemist. And then there's a cat, and it's in my screen, and I look at it, and I'm distracted by cat. Anyway, so yeah, it's the story I would describe. It most closely resembles a slice of life anime.
Ooh.
Except it does have like JRPG, like, oh, the big bad is coming and they're full of darkness and we're full of friendship and light. But it's like for like 10 minutes, and most of it is like, we're friends and we're having a good summer and blah blah blah. So it feels really out of place when you get to like darkness stuff. You're just like, okay. The side quests, I want to specifically shout out the side quests, because while they are mind-numbing for the most part in terms of like doing them, they aren't grindy. Most of them are real quick, like just go talk to somebody or just go make an item real quick and then come right back, and there's fast travel, so it's real fast to do that. What they are, so they're not interesting gameplay wise, but you do get to hang out with the different residents of the island, and you see them multiple times and like see their stories happen. And they don't really have arcs of their own, but it's just like, again, that whole slice of life of like things happen, people live their lives, and it's just kind of charming and chill to see them do that.
Oh yeah.
And so I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. This is the first Atelier game I've ever played. I was getting a lot of rave reviews when it first came out, so it's been on my list for a while. Got it free on PS Plus, so I tried it out. A lot of fun. Had a great time. Probably will play the second one.
All right. That is a wonderful review. What is the name of that game again?
Atelier Ryza, Ever Darkness, and The Secret Hideout.
Thank you very much. And yes, I'm sure Jeremy was chuckling there because I just threw a cat off my laptop keyboard trying to end the podcast early over here, apparently. Listen, I got a quick review because this podcast is coming out on Tuesday morning. It is election day. I will say this. It is your right to go vote. However, we need a new I voted sticker. I'm sorry. I hate to have the hot take here, but we need a new sticker, okay? That kid won that werewolf voting sticker design, and it's awesome. I need that nationally, okay? Because I get it. You voted. Cool. But how did you vote? Did you vote passionately like a werewolf tearing off their shirt? Or did you do it quietly in a ballot booth? Whatever. I just want a new sticker. That's all I want. That's all I asked for. The system is broken. I just want a new sticker.
That's all for today. Go Royals!
Oh!